The chamber was built to make lesser beings feel small. It stretched upward for what seemed like forever, a cathedral of black stone and living crystal that pulsed with the light of 1,000 alien worlds. 12,000 species filled the ascending galleries, their bodies ranging from creatures of pure light to massive armored beings whose breath created small earthquakes in the air around them. At the center of this impossible space, standing on a platform barely large enough for 3 people, the human delegation waited. Ambassador Thomas Greer kept his hands clasped behind his back. His gray suit looked almost absurd against the backdrop of alien splendor, but his eyes remained steady. Beside him stood Fleet Admiral Keiko Mori, her military uniform crisp despite the 18-hour journey through hostile space. The third member of their party, Dr. James Adebayo, clutched a data tablet to his chest like a shield. Above them, carved into thrones of impossible materials, the triumvirate looked down. The first was the Vorath Primarch, a serpentine creature whose scales shifted through colors that had no names in human languages. His body coiled around a throne of living metal, and when he spoke, the sound seemed to come from everywhere at once. Species designation: human. Origin: soul system, 3rd planet. You have been summoned to answer for your crimes. Thomas did not flinch. 12,000 alien gazes pressed down upon him like a physical weight, but he had prepared for this moment. He had spent 3 years preparing. Honored Primarch, he said, his voice carrying through the translation matrices that converted his words into 10,000 languages simultaneously. We request formal clarification of the charges against our species. A ripple passed through the galleries. Whispers, clicks, subsonic, rumbles from creatures who communicated in frequencies humans could not hear. The second member of the triumvirate leaned forward. This was the architect, a being of pure energy contained within a geometric framework of its own design. Its voice arrived directly in their minds, bypassing the translation systems entirely. You destroyed the Valorian hegemony. 17 inhabited worlds, 400 billion sentient lives. An empire that stood for 9 million years, erased in less than 2 of your solar cycles. Admiral Mori spoke, her voice cutting through the chamber with military precision. They attacked us first. Silence crashed through the hall like a wave breaking against stone. The third triumvirate stirred. This was the witness, an ancient creature of interlocking shells and translucent membranes. It was said to be older than most civilizations in the chamber. When it spoke, its voice was like wind through dead leaves. The Valorians sent a survey vessel to your system. They catalogued your species. They departed peacefully. This does not constitute an act of war. Thomas felt his jaw tighten. They came back. 18 months later, they returned with a harvesting fleet. Harvesting is their nature, their culture. You cannot condemn a civilization for following their biological imperatives. Dr. Adebayo stepped forward, his earlier nervousness replaced by something cold. They took our colony on Titan, 47,000 people. Men, women, children. He paused. They did not take them as prisoners. They took them as food. The Vorath Primarch's eyes, great amber orbs that seemed to contain entire universes, fixed upon the doctor. The Valorians were a predatory species. This is known. This is accepted. Many species in this chamber consume other sentient beings. It is the natural order, not our order, Thomas said quietly. You are newcomers to the stars. You do not dictate terms to civilizations that have existed for millions of years. Admiral Mori's hand moved to her wrist, where a small device sat dormant. We are not dictating terms. We are stating facts. The Valorians ate our children. We responded. The architect's geometric form flickered with agitation. You were a pre-warp civilization. Primitive fusion drives. orbital habitats barely extending beyond your own moon. The Valorians possess technology millions of years more advanced. How did you reach their space? How did you destroy them? Thomas allowed himself a small smile. We learned. Impossible. The technological gap was insurmountable. Apparently not. The witness rose slightly from its throne, membranes rustling. Ambassador Greer, do you understand why you have truly been summoned here today? I assume you intend to punish us for the crime of survival. No. The ancient being's voice carried something that the translation matrix struggled to convey. Sorrow, perhaps. Or fear. We summoned you because of what the elders told us. Warnings passed down through 2 billion years. Warnings we ignored when the Valorians asked permission to harvest from your world. Thomas felt his heart rate increase, but kept his expression neutral. The elders? The creators. The first civilization. They seeded life throughout this galaxy and 1,000 others. Before they departed from this plane of existence, they left warnings about certain species, certain worlds, certain evolutionary paths that should never be disturbed. The Primarch uncoiled slightly. Earth was on that list. Your species was flagged with the highest possible danger rating. The elders called you the Sleeping Ones. They said you were patient, that you remembered everything, that you carried your hatreds across generations like sacred flames. Admiral Maury's eyes narrowed. And yet you let the Valorians take our people anyway. We did not believe the warnings. The elders disappeared 2 billion years ago. Their knowledge was considered legend, mythology. The witness paused. We were wrong. Thomas looked up at the 12,000 species watching from the galleries. He saw fear in eyes that had never known fear. He saw uncertainty in beings who had ruled the cosmos for longer than Earth had possessed life. So you are not here to punish us, he said slowly. You are here to ask for mercy. The silence that followed was absolute. Dr. Adebayo touched his data tablet. Ambassador, I am receiving confirmation from the fleet. All units are in position. Thomas nodded slightly. Honored Triumvirate, I believe there has been a misunderstanding. You seem to think we came here to defend ourselves, to plead our case before your judgment. He paused. We did not. The Primarch's scales rippled with colors that indicated alarm. Explain. We came here to deliver terms. The architect's energy form flared. You dare threaten the Conclave? We command 10,000 fleets, 1,000,000 worlds, resources beyond your primitive comprehension. Admiral Maury touched her wrist device. Above the chamber, holographic displays flickered to life. They showed the star around which the Conclave station orbited. And surrounding that star, previously invisible, 47 signatures suddenly appeared. Those are Valorian-class dreadnoughts, she said calmly. Rebuilt from the wreckage of their empire. Improved with human engineering. Each one carries conversion bombs, capable of destabilizing your sun. Chaos erupted in the galleries. Species that had not known terror for millennia scrambled for exits. Others activated personal shields. The Triumvirate rose from their thrones. Thomas Greer raised his voice above the tumult. We do not want war with the Conclave. We never wanted war with anyone. We wanted to explore the stars, to build a future, to raise our children in peace. His voice hardened. But you taught us something. You taught us that the galaxy does not respect peace. It respects power. The witness stared at the holographic display. How long have those ships been in position? 6 months. We have been watching you for 6 months while you debated how to punish us for surviving. Thomas smiled, and there was nothing warm in it. The elders were right about us. We are patient. We remember everything. And we have waited a very long time for this moment. The Primarch's voice was barely a whisper. What do you want? Full membership in the Conclave. A permanent seat on the Arbitration Council. Complete access to the Elder Archives. And one more thing. Thomas paused. You will tell us everything you know about why the Elders feared us. Everything. The triumvirate exchanged glances. For the first time in recorded history, the rulers of the galaxy looked uncertain that the witness spoke. And if we refuse? Thomas Greer looked at the being that had witnessed the rise and fall of 10,000 civilizations. Then you will learn why the Elders called us the Sleeping Ones, and you will learn what happens when we wake up. The silence stretched for an eternity. Then, slowly, the Vorath Primarch sank back onto his throne. We will need time to discuss your proposal. Thomas nodded. Take all the time you need. We have been patient for 1,000,000 years. We can wait a little longer. He turned to his companions. Admiral, Doctor, I believe we have made our position clear. As the human delegation was escorted from the chamber, 12,000 species watched them go. The Elders had warned them. They had called humanity dangerous. They had begged future generations to let the Sleeping Ones lie undisturbed, but the Valorians had not listened. They had poked the humans with a sharp stick, stolen their children, and eaten them. Now the humans were awake, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 days passed before the triumvirate delivered their answer. 3 days during which the human fleet maintained its position around the conclave sun, a constant reminder of what humanity had become. Ambassador Thomas Greer stood in the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel, watching the alien station rotate slowly against the backdrop of stars. Admiral Lori entered silently, her footsteps barely audible on the metal floor. They have agreed, she said. Full membership, council seat, access to the archives. Thomas did not turn around. All of it? All of it? The witness personally endorsed the decision. Apparently, our little demonstration convinced even the skeptics. Good. He finally turned to face her. When do we leave for the archive vault? 12 hours. They are assembling an escort, representatives from 6 species who will accompany us. She paused. They are afraid of us, Thomas. I have never seen aliens afraid before. Good, he said again, but this time his voice was softer. Fear keeps people honest. The journey to the Elder Archives took 4 days through a region of space that no human had ever entered. The vault was hidden in the gravity well of a dead star, a neutron remnant spinning so fast that time itself bent around it. Dr. Adebayo spent the journey studying the alien delegates who had been assigned to accompany them. There was a crystalline being who communicated through harmonic vibrations, a massive 4-armed creature whose species had once fought wars that lasted for 10,000 years, a delicate insectoid diplomat whose compound eyes never stopped watching the humans. But it was the oldest member of the escort who fascinated him most. The chronicler was a being unlike any other in the conclave. Its body was a mass of interlocking membranes and neural tissue, suspended in a tank of nutrient fluid. It claimed to be 4 million years old. It claimed to have spoken with the Elders themselves before they vanished from the physical universe. You study me, the chronicler said one evening as the ship approached its destination. Its voice came from a translation device mounted on the tank. You wonder what I know. James looked up from his data tablet. I wonder many things. You wonder about the Elder warnings. You wonder why they feared your kind, among other things. The chronicler's membranes pulsed with soft light. The Elders were not gods, though many species worshipped them as such. They were simply the first, the oldest civilization to achieve sentience in this galaxy. They had billions of years to grow, to evolve, to understand the nature of reality itself. And they feared humanity? They feared what humanity might become. The chronicler paused. They created life throughout the cosmos, Dr. Adebayo, seeded planets with the building blocks of evolution, watched as species rose and fell across the millennia. But there were some worlds they marked as forbiddens. Some evolutionary paths they refused to touch. Earth. Earth was their greatest concern. A death world, they called it. A planet that killed most of its inhabitants through extinction events, climate catastrophes, cosmic bombardments. Only the most adaptable creatures survived. Only the most tenacious. Only the most dangerous. James leaned forward. What exactly did they say about us? They said you were too angry, too patient, too willing to sacrifice everything for revenge. They said you formed bonds with your young. It bordered on insanity. That you would burn down the entire galaxy to protect a single child. The chronicler's voice dropped. They said you were the only species they ever encountered that could experience something they called redemption fury. Redemption fury? The state that occurs when you believe you have failed to protect someone you love. The state that makes you capable of anything. Anything at all. The ship dropped out of warp near the dead star. The archive vault hung in space before them, a structure of impossible geometry. It seemed to exist in more dimensions than 3. James felt his mind struggle to comprehend what he was seeing. Admiral Maury came to stand beside him. That is where the elders kept their secrets? That is where they kept everything, the chronicler replied. Every piece of knowledge accumulated across 2 billion years. Every warning, every prediction, every fear. The vault opened for them like a flower unfolding. Inside, corridors stretched in directions that should not have existed. Rooms contained information stored in formats that human technology could not read. But the translation matrices worked, slowly converting alien data into something the human mind could process. Thomas found the file on humanity in the deepest section of the vault. It was titled simply, The Sleeping Ones. He read it in silence while the others explored. The file was comprehensive. It described human biology in detail that exceeded anything human scientists had ever achieved. It mapped the human brain. It analyzed human psychology. It predicted human behavior with accuracy that made Thomas's blood run cold. The elders had been watching Earth for 2 billion years. They had observed the rise of life, the extinction of the dinosaurs, the emergence of primitive humans, the slow climb toward technology and civilization. And they had been afraid. They knew, Thomas whispered. They knew what we would become. Admiral Maury appeared beside him. What does it say? It says that humans are the most dangerous species the elders ever encountered. Not because of our intelligence or our technology. Because of our psychology. He scrolled through the file. They say we carry trauma across generations. That we teach our children to remember our hatreds. That we can maintain grudges for centuries, for millennia, passing them down like genetic code. That sounds like a weakness. The elders did not see it that way. They saw it as a weapon. A civilization that never forgets, never forgives, never stops coming. Thomas paused. They recommended that Earth be quarantined, that no species ever make contact with humanity, that we be left alone until we either destroyed ourselves or evolved beyond our dangerous nature. Admiral Maury was quiet for a moment. The Valorians ignored this warning. The Valorians thought they were superior. They thought they could harvest us like cattle, and we would never be able to respond. Thomas's voice hardened. They were wrong. Dr. Adebayo rushed into the chamber, his face pale. Ambassador, Admiral, you need to see this. He led them deeper into the vault, to a section that the alien escorts had not mentioned. The walls here were marked with symbols that pulsed with red light, warning signs in a language that predated most civilizations in the galaxy. This section was classified, James said. The Conclave representatives did not want us to find it, but the vault systems recognized my biosignature They granted me access. Biosignature? Human biosignature. Apparently, the elders programmed certain sections to open only for humans. He stopped before a massive display. Look, the display showed a weapon. Not a ship, not a bomb. Something else. Something that existed in a place between dimensions, accessible only through a gateway hidden somewhere in the galaxy. The elders did not simply disappear, James said quietly. They were destroyed. By this, their own creation. A weapon powerful enough to unmake reality itself. Admiral Mori stared at the display. Why would they build such a thing? They built it as insurance. In case something threatened the entire galaxy. In case they needed to start over. James paused. But they never used it. They sealed it away. And according to these files, there is only one species in the universe that can access it. Only one genetic signature that will open the gateway. Thomas felt a chill run down his spine. Human. Human. The elders designed us, Ambassador. 2 billion years ago, they seeded Earth with specific genetic material. They guided our evolution. They created us to be the key to their ultimate weapon. James looked at him with eyes full of fear. And someone in the conclave knows. Someone has been searching for this weapon for millions of years. Someone activated something. Before Thomas could respond, the ship shuddered. Alarms began to wail. Admiral Mori touched her communicator. Report. The captain's voice came through, tight with tension. We are receiving an emergency transmission from Earth. Unknown vessels have entered human space. They are attacking our outer colonies. Thomas grabbed the chronicler's tank. What kind of vessels? The ancient being's membranes flickered. I do not know. The signatures are unlike anything in our records. But Thomas was already looking at the display, at the weapon hidden between dimensions, at the Guardian Protocol the elders had left behind, ancient ships, automated warships, programmed to bring humanity to the weapon, whether they wanted to go or not. Someone had woken the Guardians. And now they were coming for Earth. Thomas looked at Admiral Mori. Get us home, now. As the ship turned toward human space, Thomas stared at the elder files still glowing on the display. The elders had created humanity for a purpose. They had designed them to be the key to ultimate power, and now the galaxy was about to learn what happened when that key was turned. Earth had never seen ships like these. Fleet Commander Viktor Petrov stood on the bridge of the flagship. Retribution, watching the tactical display with growing horror. The enemy vessels moved through space like ghosts, their hulls shifting between dimensions, their weapons firing beams that simply erased matter from existence. The outer colonies were already gone. 3 billion people vanished in the span of hours. All units, fall back to the Luna defensive line, Victor ordered. His voice was steady despite the fear crawling through his chest. We need to regroup. Commander, our weapons have no effect. His tactical officer was young, barely 25, and her hands were shaking. Their shields absorb everything we throw at them. Missiles, railed. Uns. Even the conversion bombs just disappear. Victor watched another human cruiser explode on the display. 2,000 crew members, gone in an instant. Then we rammed them, he said quietly. Sir, if our weapons cannot hurt them, we use our ships as weapons. Calculate collision courses. All vessels. We buy time for Earth to evacuate. The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what he was ordering. Everyone understood that there would be no evacuation. Earth held 12 billion people. There was nowhere for them to go, but they would fight anyway. Because that was what humans did. The first ramming attack struck an alien vessel head-on. The human cruiser Defiance accelerated to maximum velocity and slammed into the enemy ship with the force of a small nuclear explosion. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the alien ship's shields flickered, failed. The vessel tumbled through space, its hull cracked. "It worked," the tactical officer whispered. Victor allowed himself a grim smile. "All units, execute ramming protocols. Make every ship count." Across the solar system, human vessels began their final attacks. Captains said goodbye to their families through brief transmissions. Crew members strapped themselves into their stations and accelerated toward death. One by one, the alien ships began to fall, but for every one they destroyed, 3 more emerged from the darkness of space. In Geneva, the United Earth Council was in chaos. President Maria Santos stood before the emergency assembly, her face pale, but her voice calm. "We have received a transmission from Ambassador Greer. He is returning from the conclave at maximum speed. But he will not arrive in time." "Then we are lost," said the representative from the Asian coalition. "We cannot fight these things. We can delay them." Maria turned to the strategic display. "The enemy is not trying to destroy Earth. Look at their patterns. They are hurting our forces, pushing them toward a specific location." Dr. Elena Varga, the chief scientist of Earth's reverse engineering program, stepped forward. "I believe I understand. These are elder vessels, automated guardians programmed millions of years ago. They are not here to exterminate us. They are here to bring us somewhere. Where? I do not know. But they are following a path, a trajectory burned into space-time itself. If we follow that path, perhaps we find answers." Maria stared at the display. "And if we do not follow? Then they will continue to attack until we have no choice." The president closed her eyes. Outside the window, she could see the night sky. Stars that humanity had only begun to explore. A universe that had suddenly become hostile and deadly. "Contact Fleet Commander Petrov. Tell him to prepare a breakthrough force. We are not going to be herded like cattle. Madam President, the enemy is too powerful. We cannot fight through them." Maria opened her eyes. "Then we die trying. But we do not go quietly. We do not surrender. And we do not let them take us without learning who they are and why they came." The battle raged for 72 hours. Viktor Petrov lost 60% of his fleet in the first day. By the second day, he was commanding from a crippled destroyer, the Retribution, a burning wreck somewhere near Jupiter. By the third day, there were only 47 human ships left. But the enemy had lost ground. Not much. A few million kilometers. A handful of their ghostly vessels floating dead in space. But for the first time since the attack began, the aliens were falling back. "They are regrouping," Victor said, staring at the tactical display. His uniform was scorched. Blood seeped from a wound on his forehead. They did not expect this level of resistance. "Sir, we cannot sustain these losses." His new tactical officer, the third one in 3 days, spoke carefully. "At this rate, we will have no ships left within 48 hours. Then we make those 48 hours count." A transmission came through. Ambassador Greer's face appeared on the screen, haggard and exhausted. "Commander Petrov, I am entering the solar system now. What is your status?" "We are dying, Ambassador. But we are taking them with us." Thomas's expression tightened. "I have information from the Elder Archives. These vessels are not invaders. They are guardians. They were programmed to bring humanity to a specific location. A weapon hidden between dimensions." "A weapon?" "The Elders created us, Commander. 2 billion years ago, they seeded Earth with human DNA. They designed us to be the key to their ultimate weapon. A device powerful enough to reshape reality itself." Victor was silent for a long moment. Why would they do that? Because they needed a successor. Someone to inherit their power after they were gone. Someone they could trust. Thomas paused. Or someone they hoped they could trust. And now these guardians want to bring us to this weapon. Yes, whether we want to go or not. Victor looked at his remaining ships. 47 vessels crewed by exhausted, wounded humans who had been fighting for 3 days without rest. Then he looked at the enemy fleet, regrouping for another assault. Ambassador, we cannot win this battle. Not with conventional tactics. But we might be able to do something else. What do you have in mind? You said the enemy is trying to herd us toward this weapon. They are following a path. What if we do not fight them? What if we follow that path willingly, but on our own terms? Thomas considered this. You want to go to the weapon? I want to find out what we really are. Why the elders created us. Why they feared us enough to leave warnings across 2 billion years. Victor smiled grimly. And if there is a weapon powerful enough to stop these things, I want to find it before someone else does. Admiral Maury's voice came through the transmission. Commander, this could be a trap. The faction within the Conclave that activated these guardians wanted to control the weapon through humanity. If we go to them, we might be playing into their hands. Maybe, but staying here means extinction. At least if we follow the path, we have a chance. Thomas was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Assemble what is left of the fleet. We will go together. But we go prepared. If this is a trap, we spring it on our own terms. Victor turned to his crew. You heard the ambassador. Set course for the coordinates the enemy is trying to push us toward. All remaining vessels form up. We are done running. The tactical officer looked at him with something like hope. Sir, what are we going to find out there? Victor thought about the question. The elders had created humanity. They had seeded Earth with their genetic legacy. They had watched over human evolution for 2 billion years. And they had been afraid of what they created. I do not know what we will find, Victor said. But I know this. Whatever it is, it belongs to us. The elders made us for a purpose. And now we are going to discover what that purpose is. The human fleet, battered and broken, but still fighting, turned toward the unknown. Behind them, the elder guardians paused. Their programming had not anticipated this. Humanity was supposed to flee, supposed to be driven like cattle toward the slaughter. Instead, they were attacking. Walking willingly into the trap, the guardians followed, uncertain for the first time in 2 billion years. And somewhere in the depths of space, in a place between dimensions where reality itself grew thin, something ancient began to stir. Something that had been waiting since before the stars were born. The key was coming, and soon. The lock would open. The journey took 6 days through regions of space that no living species had entered in 2 billion years. Thomas Greer stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel, watching the stars change color as they approached the coordinates. Admiral Maury was beside him, her hand resting on the console as if she could steer the ship through willpower alone. The chronicler says we are approaching the threshold, she said quietly, the boundary between normal space and whatever lies beyond. Has it told you what to expect? It says the elders never told anyone. The weapon was their greatest secret, their final legacy. She paused. It also says that several species have tried to reach this place over the millennia. None of them ever returned. Thomas nodded. Behind them, the remnants of the human fleet followed in formation. 47 ships, now joined by a small contingent of conclave vessels crewed by aliens, who had chosen to stand with humanity rather than against it. The Witness was among them, having left the conclave hall for the first time in 1,000,000 years. It claimed that the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, that if humanity fell, the weapon would remain unclaimed until someone worse came along. Thomas did not entirely trust the ancient being, but he had no choice. The path forward led only one direction. "We are receiving a transmission," the communications officer announced. "Unknown origin. Unknown language. Put it through." The screen flickered. For a moment, there was only static. Then a shape began to form. A face, if it could be called that. Features made of light and shadow, constantly shifting, never quite solid. Children of Earth. The voice was neither male nor female, neither old nor young. It simply was. "You have come at last. We have waited so long." Thomas stepped forward. "Who are you?" "We are what remains. The last echo of those who built your species. We are the Elders." Admiral Maury's breath caught. "The Elders are dead. The record said they destroyed themselves. We did not destroy ourselves. We transcended. We left behind our physical forms and became something else. Something that exists between dimensions, outside of time." The face shifted, and Ty's? Thomas thought he saw something like sadness in its features. But we could not take everything with us. Some things had to remain behind. Some responsibilities could not be abandoned. "The weapon," Thomas said. "The throne. The seat of power that controls the fundamental forces of reality. We built it to protect the galaxy from threats beyond comprehension. Beings from outside our universe, seeking to consume everything that exists." The face flickered. "But the throne requires a guardian, a consciousness to guide it, a will strong enough to wield its power without being corrupted. And you chose humanity. We chose no one. We created the potential, seeded Earth with genetic material that might one day evolve into beings capable of claiming the throne. We watched. We waited. We hoped." Admiral Maury's voice was hard. "You hoped? You watched our species struggle and suffer for 1,000,000 years. You watched the Valorians take our children. You did nothing. We could do nothing. The throne cannot be claimed by force. It cannot be given. It must be earned. Only a species that rises from darkness on its own strength is worthy of its power." The face turned toward her. "Your suffering was not our intention, but it was necessary. Only through fire is steel forged." Thomas felt anger rising in his chest. "Necessary? 47,000 people were eaten by the Valorians. 3 billion more died in the Guardian attacks. How can you call that necessary?" "Because the alternative was worse. The beings from outside are coming. They have been approaching for millions of years, moving through the void between galaxies. When they arrive, they will consume everything. Every star, every world, every living thing." The elder face grew solemn. "The throne is the only thing that can stop them, and only humanity can claim it." Dr. Adebayo spoke from behind them. "Why us? Why not one of the older species? The Conclave has civilizations that are millions of years old." "Because they are too old, too cautious, too set in their ways. The throne requires a guardian who can change, who can adapt, who can make impossible decisions in moments of crisis." The face turned toward him. "Your species evolved on a death world. You survived extinction events that would have ended any other civilization. You learned to carry your memories across generations, to remember your ancestors and their struggles. You became the most stubborn, most persistent, most dangerously creative species in the galaxy." The transmission flickered. The elder face was fading. "The threshold is opening. Beyond it lies the pocket dimension where the throne waits. You must enter alone. The guardians will follow, but they cannot pass the barrier. Nothing can, except those who carry the key in their blood." Thomas looked at his companions. Admiral Maury, Dr. Adebayo, Fleet Commander Petrov, who had joined them after transferring from his crippled destroyer. The crew members who had survived the journey. "How do we claim the throne?" He asked. "You must pass the trials. Tests designed to reveal the truth of your character. Many will fall. Most will fail. Only one can reach the throne. Only one can sit upon it." The face flickered again, almost gone now. "But be warned, Ambassador Greer. The throne will change whoever claims it. Power always does. The question is not whether you can wield it. The question is whether you can remain human while you do." The transmission ended. The screen went dark. Admiral Maury turned to the viewport. Ahead of them, space itself was beginning to tear open. A rift in reality, glowing with light that should not exist, colors that human eyes could not process. "The threshold," she whispered. Behind them, new contacts appeared on the tactical display. A massive fleet, emerging from warp space. Conclave vessels, but flying hostile colors. "The traitors," Petrov growled. "The faction that activated the Guardians. They have come to claim the throne for themselves." Thomas watched the enemy fleet approaching. Hundreds of ships, far outmatching their own small force. "They cannot pass the threshold," he said. "The Elder said only humans can enter. But they can stop us before we reach it." Admiral Maury was already moving toward the tactical station. "All vessels, defensive formation. We protect the diplomatic ship at all costs." The enemy fleet opened fire. Space erupted in explosions of light and energy. Human ships began to die, their crews sacrificing themselves to buy time. Thomas grabbed Maury's arm. "Get us to the threshold. Whatever it takes. We will never make it. There are too many of them." Dr. Adebayo was staring at his tablet. "Wait, the Guardians. They followed us here. They are still behind us." Thomas looked at the display. The Elder Guardians, the ancient automated ships that had devastated Earth's outer colonies, were holding position just outside the battle zone, watching, waiting. "Their programming was to bring us to the throne," Thomas said slowly. "They were supposed to ensure we arrived. They attacked us before, because we were resisting. But now we are going willingly." Thomas opened a communication channel. "Elder Guardians, if you can hear me, we are trying to reach the threshold. We are trying to claim the throne. But the enemy fleet is blocking our path." Silence. Then, slowly, the Guardian vessels began to move. Their weapons charged. Their shields activated. But they were not aiming at the human ships. They were aiming at the traitor fleet. The Guardians opened fire. Elder weapons, technology beyond anything the Conclave had ever developed, tore through the enemy vessels like paper. The traitor fleet scattered, their formation breaking apart. "Now," Thomas shouted. "Full power to engines. Get us through." The diplomatic ship accelerated toward the rift in space. Behind them, the Guardian vessels formed a wall, blocking the enemy from pursuing. Human ships fell back, covering the diplomatic vessel's retreat. The threshold loomed ahead, a tear in the fabric of reality itself. "Are we really doing this?" Dr. Adebayo asked, his voice barely audible over the sound of the engines. Thomas looked at the rift. Beyond it lay power beyond imagination. The ability to reshape reality. To bring back everyone they had lost. To create a universe where nothing like the Valorian atrocity could ever happen again. Or the ability to destroy everything. To become the very monsters they had fought against. "We are doing this," he said, "because we have no choice. Because the Elders created us for this purpose. And because somewhere out there, something worse than the Valorians is coming." The ship entered the threshold. Reality twisted around them, and the trials began. The pocket dimension was nothing like Thomas had imagined. There was no floor beneath his feet, yet he stood. No walls around him, yet he felt enclosed. The space stretched in every direction, filled with light that came from nowhere and shadows that fell in impossible patterns. Admiral Maury was gone. Dr. Adebayo was gone. The ship was gone. He was alone. "Welcome, Thomas Greer." The elder voice echoed through the emptiness. "The trials have begun. Only by facing the truth of yourself can you prove yourself worthy." Thomas turned in a slow circle. "What kind of trials?" "The trials of memory. The trials of choice. The trials of mercy." The world shifted around him. Suddenly, he was standing on Titan, in the colony that the Valorians had destroyed. The buildings were intact. The streets were full of people. Children played in the artificial parks, while their parents watched from nearby benches. And there, walking toward him, was his daughter. Thomas felt his breath catch. Sophie had been 7 years old when the Valorians came. 7 years old when they took her away to their harvesting ships. 7 years old when they did things that Thomas refused to imagine. "Papa!" Sophie ran toward him, her arms outstretched. "Papa, you came back." Thomas fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. He pulled her into his arms, feeling her warmth, smelling her hair, hearing her heartbeat. "Sophie, my little girl, I am so sorry. I should have protected you. I should have been there. It is okay, Papa. You are here now. You can make it right." Thomas pulled back, looking into her face. Those eyes, so much like her mother's eyes? How? How can I make it right? "The throne." Sophie smiled. "The throne can bring everyone back. Everyone who died. Everyone who suffered. You just have to take it, Papa. You just have to become what the elders wanted you to become." Thomas stared at his daughter, at the face he had dreamed about every night for 2 years, at the smile that had haunted his waking hours and his sleeping ones, and he understood. "You are not Sophie." The smile faltered. "What? My daughter is dead. The Valerians killed her. This is a test." He stood slowly, gently pushing the image of his daughter away. "You want to see if I will claim absolute power to bring back the dead. If I will become a god to undo my own grief." The world flickered. Sophie's face shifted, became something else, something older and sadder. "You passed the first trial," the elder voice said. "But there are more to come." The pocket dimension shifted again. Now Thomas was standing on the bridge of a Valorian ship, surrounded by the serpentine forms of the creatures who had killed his people. And in his hand was a weapon capable of destroying them all. "This is the trial of revenge," the elder said. "Before you stand the last Valorians, hidden survivors who escaped your fleets. You can kill them now. End their species forever. Ensure they never hurt anyone again." Thomas looked at the Valorians. They cowered before him, their eyes wide with terror. Some of them were young, children by their standards, beings who had not participated in the attack on Titan, who had not eaten human flesh. "Kill them," the elder whispered. "They are monsters. They deserve extinction." Thomas thought about Sophie, about the 47,000 people who had been harvested, about the rage that had driven humanity across the stars to destroy an empire dot, and he lowered the weapon. "No, no. They killed your daughter. They ate your people. Justice demands their destruction. Justice, not vengeance." Thomas set the weapon down. "I came here to protect humanity, not to become a monster myself. If I kill these beings because of what their species did, I am no better than they were." The Valorians faded. The bridge disappeared. "You passed the second trial," the elder said. "But the third is the hardest." Thomas found himself in a chamber of pure white light. At its center stood a throne made of something that was not quite matter. It pulsed with energy, with power, with the potential to reshape reality itself, and standing before it were the elders. They had taken physical form for the first time in 2 billion years. Beings of light and thought, beautiful and terrible, ancient beyond comprehension. You have come far, Thomas Greer, farther than any human before you. You have faced your grief and refused to let it consume you. You have faced your rage and chosen mercy instead. The lead elder stepped forward. Now you face the final choice. What choice? The throne awaits. Sit upon it, and you will become a god. You will have the power to reshape reality, to undo all suffering, to create a universe of perfect peace. You will be able to bring back your daughter, your friends, everyone who ever died at the hands of the Valorians or the Guardians or any other threat. Thomas stared at the throne. Power beyond imagination. The ability to fix everything. What is the cost? The cost is yourself. The throne will merge with your consciousness. Over time, you will become like us, detached, distant, unable to feel as humans feel, to love as humans love. You will become a god who no longer remembers what it meant to be a man. Thomas thought about Sophie, about her laugh, about the way she used to crawl into his bed during thunderstorms. What happens if I refuse? The throne remains empty. The weapon remains unclaimed. When the beings from outside arrive, there will be nothing to stop them. Nothing? The elder hesitated. There is another option. One we did not anticipate. One you might choose, though it has never been done before. Tell me. The throne's power is meant for one. But it can be shared, briefly. For a single moment, you could connect every consciousness in the galaxy. Let every being feel what every other being feels. Share the pain and love and fear and hope of trillions of lives. What would that accomplish? Perhaps nothing. Perhaps everything. Empathy, Thomas Greer, is the most human trait of all. The ability to feel another's pain as your own. To understand that others are as real as yourself. The elder's voice softened. The beings from outside are coming because they do not understand this. They consume because they do not recognize the value of what they destroy. If every consciousness in the galaxy could feel that connection, even for a moment, perhaps it would be enough. Thomas looked at the throne. He thought about power, about godhood, about the ability to fix everything with a wave of his hand. Then he thought about Sophie again, about the question she had asked him once, years ago. Papa, why are people mean to each other? He had answered, because they forget that other people are real. They forget that other people feel pain and love and fear, just like them. The moment you forget that, you can justify anything. Thomas walked toward the throne. He placed his hands on its arms. He felt the power surge through him, impossible and overwhelming dot, and instead of claiming it, he shared it. For one eternal moment, every consciousness in the galaxy touched every other. The traitors who had attacked the human fleet felt the pain of the humans they had tried to kill. The humans felt the fear of the aliens who had watched their rise with terror. The ancient beings felt the hope of the young species just beginning to reach for the stars. And somewhere, in the darkness between galaxies, the beings from outside hesitated. For the first time, they felt something other than hunger. They felt the echo of 12,000 civilizations, united in a single moment of connection. The moment passed. The throne shattered, its power spent in that single act. Thomas collapsed to the ground. Mortal and unchanged Admiral Maury found him drifting in the wreckage of the pocket dimension, unconscious but alive. She pulled him aboard the diplomatic vessel and held his hand until he woke. What happened? She asked. What did you do? Thomas looked at his hands. They were just hands. Human hands. I made a choice, he said quietly. I chose to be human, whatever that means. 6 months later, the conclave hall was full again. 12,000 species filled the galleries. But the atmosphere was different now. The fear was fading. In its place was something new, something fragile, something that might one day become trust, that the witness spoke from its ancient throne. The elders warned us about humanity. They said you were dangerous. They were right. It paused. But they did not understand what made you dangerous. It was not your rage or your capacity for violence. It was this, your ability to choose mercy when revenge was within your grasp. Thomas Greer stood on the platform at the center of the hall. He looked older than he had 6 months ago, sadder, but also somehow more at peace. The throne is destroyed. The weapon is gone. But something remains. In that moment of connection, every being in this galaxy felt what every other being felt. The memory is fading, but the impact remains. The Vorath Primarch spoke. Wars are ending across the galaxy. Species that have been enemies for millennia are beginning to talk. The traitors who attacked your fleet have surrendered and asked for forgiveness. It paused. What did you do to us? I reminded you. We are all afraid. We are all hoping. We are all real. Thomas smiled softly. The elders created us to be the key to their ultimate weapon. But perhaps they did not understand what the weapon truly was. Dr. Adebayo stepped forward. We found one final message in the archive systems. It appeared after the throne was destroyed. A hologram flickered to life above the chamber. Elder script, translated for all to understand. To our successors, we gave you the power to end everything or save everything. You chose neither. You chose to share. We failed because we forgot what you remembered. That connection is the only power worth having. We were your creators. Now we are your students. Take the stars. They are yours. Use them well. The hall was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, the delegates began to applaud. Not with hands, necessarily. Some species did not have hands, but with whatever they had, tendrils, energy pulses. Harmonic vibrations. Was the sound of the galaxy welcoming its newest members. Thomas closed his eyes. He thought about Sophie, about her smile, about the way she had always believed the best in people. He could not bring her back. The throne was gone. The power was spent, but he could build a galaxy where no child would ever have to suffer what she suffered. That was his inheritance, his purpose, his choice. The stars were waiting, and humanity would rise to meet them.